Hello, long time no videos. I want to make a video about some questions, or a couple of videos about some questions that I have been asked. And one of the first questions that people ask me when um, they ask what you do, or I don't know, is like, why do you live in a yurt? So there are people who hear about my lifestyle and the Nomad Town and the concept of resilience hubs. And a very common question is like, why do you live in a yurt? There are other questions like, how do you do this and that? And what do you do with this and that? But I think the why question is pretty interesting to start with because I think that's where we all have a common ground. So, first of all, for those of you who are not familiar with yurts, yurts are nomadic structures. So, this is the yurt there. This is a group teepee kind of tent, and there's a visitor dog here also. And yeah, so the yurt is quite a small shelter in comparison to the average house. So the European average for houses is around 42 square meters per person of floor space. And with my yurt, which is about for three people in my way of thinking and also in my experience, we have been now in the last winter living in this yurt quite often with three people, like two adults and a child. And this yurt has 25 square meters. And the reason why I live in a yurt is mainly survival related. So I personally feel that survival is a lot more than about knowing how to survive in the woods or something. It's not a hobby or anything. It really is very down to earth, wanting to stay alive, accepting the responsibility of showing a lifestyle to my offspring that can safely be copied. And I have now been trying for something over 8 years to make life in a so-called normal house more sustainable. So making more sustainable took a lot of effort, a lot of energy, also a lot of money. And I realized that the level of sustainability that is required cannot be reached with a house that is on grid, right? Reasons why, just for example, if I start with the sewage system, right, that's already on grid. Like even if you have your own water from a well, even if you have your own electricity, as long as you have a sewage system that you have to be connected to in many places, you cannot reach sufficient levels of sustainability. The whole sewage system is not sustainable. It needs a huge amount of money, resources to maintain and to run, right? Um, Also, just the energy consumption of this system. Another part is, for example, the heating. The house that I used to live in, it had electricity and wood heating. So the electricity, even though we had green electricity, it would come from a quite complex grid with lots of complex infrastructure. So to transport the electricity, to produce the electricity, and or let's say to turn the energy into electric form. And these networks also require fossil fuels or fossil resources. Let's think about the windmill, for example. To make green electricity or solar panels, you need fossil resources, and they are then turned into something that does not go back to nature into a shape or form that is usable by other organisms. So when I think about the yurt here, my heating source is wood. That's my only energy source for heating, for cooking, for hot water. And this wood comes from this area here. So in that sense, it is CO2 neutral if it has not been transported by a vehicle, for example, or a road network on a road network that again requires fossil resources. That's also one of the reasons why in the moment I'm making wood with a handsaw, not with a chainsaw, but with a handsaw, because I understand that fossil-free lifestyle is necessary to actually make life on this planet possible, right? Otherwise, we eat the planet, and that's the same as cutting off the branch on what we are sitting. So, In comparison to this house that I used to live in, where I had probably some 30 square meter of floor space per person, it was a 100 plus square meter house. Now I have a lot less space to heat, and also my yurt doesn't require energy while I'm not using it. Also, there's only one room, right? Even though if I'm in the kitchen in a normal house, let's say I'm in the kitchen, you still have the bedroom heated. I have the same, but it's all the same room. So when I'm using it, everything is heated that I'm using, and I'm everywhere at the same time. Also, the yurt has the advantage that, as I said, it does not need electricity or any energy source while I'm not there. It can easily go to -30 if I'm not here in the winter. Everything can freeze inside the yurt, and everything that should not freeze, it's down in the fridge that I have. Like I have this 240-liter storage space under the floor, so it's an underground storage earth fridge. This is also where I store my food now in the summer. In the winter, I store it a lot outside also, and that's very convenient. Again, doesn't need any electricity. I don't really need a freezer because I can dry food or smoke food, or yeah, learn about fermenting food. So yeah, a couple of reasons for the yurt, and then there's a mobile component to it, so it gives me a lot of freedom. Nobody knows tomorrow. I don't know um, for what reason I might need to move to a different location, or maybe there's a better location for the Nomad Town. So we might have to move, or we might want to move. And then with the yurt, I can just pack up my home and take it with me. In the moment, like with the yurt, I have to go many times for bicycle trailer, or I transport it by car with like biogas fuel. But that's, yeah, so it's a transition. I'm not really happy with that part yet. Also, it's quite a big shelter for transporting without a horse or so, and I believe that we have to go to bicycle speed and bicycle distances, um, and the yurt is not really suitable for that. Well, it can be split up, it can be transported many times. I could have a different set of frames somewhere else and only transport the canvas. So, but that's something to still figure out. At least in the moment, I'm believing that for the next years I will be in this location. So the yurt is something, it can be transported, it can move with me. And another bonus is I understand the yurt. I can look at it. I don't have to guess, is there mold in the walls or not. I can look at it and see it. I can see if something is going to break before it breaks. And these are things inside, like I know about sewing, like I'm quite good with the sewing machine, so I can fix things by myself. I don't need a network of experts or hardware stores to maintain the yurt. Um, yeah, um, and then another thing is I know that yurts work. So we have a lot more experience with nomadic shelters than we have experience with permanent shelters, especially more experience with shelters built of natural materials than shelters built from synthetic materials. Today we have materials like houses and shelters that are put together from, often foam, so just glued together using materials and energy sources that leave toxic waste, problematic waste. So with the yurt, I don't have any of this, and um, or maybe a little bit. There's some polyester in the fabric, um, but yeah, there it's a it's compromises, it's learning, it is just trying. So when I was looking for a lifestyle that could possibly work or is more likely to work, I started with shelter, like as one of the 6 survival priorities that I try to cover in a way that I understand it, and that it doesn't impact others um, more than, I don't know, more than what is okay. So, anything else about the yurt? Yeah, it's just a great place. It's a really great place. Now we have end of May in the in the place that humans call Eastern Finland. I've been living here since last August, so I've had my first winter in the yurt. Had temperatures down to -24 degrees Celsius. And yeah, I was warm. It was like really easy to be warm and be comfortable. And the round shape is really beautiful. Like the crown, the skylight is beautiful. It's just a so beautiful and such a good energy place to be in. And yeah, pretty much the first time in my life I'm also feeling homesick whenever I'm not here. Um, yeah, well, in childhood times when I felt home at my parents' place, but ever since then I never felt really anywhere as much home as I do now. And yeah, that's partly because it's an understandable shelter, and the feeling that it's something that my kid could copy safely, could just take over, and if not, just pack it up, put it in a trailer, put it in storage somewhere. It doesn't cost you anything because it's paid off. That's also something. Like when I think of the shelters that we usually live in, the average in Finland is 26% of the income. That means 2 hours on an 8 hour workday goes to pay mortgages or rent, and this yurt it's paid, right? It's well, I bought this yurt, and from a yurt maker in Finland, you might notice that the roof is a little bit steeper, right? That's um, to be better dealing with snow loads and more rain also. So the typical Mongolian yurt would be a bit flatter, and I know that it's possible also to build shelters totally from natural materials or recycled materials without any costs. People are doing this, people have been doing this, and I find that very inspiring. I just had money at hand back then, and I felt really like I'm in a hurry. And I think we are in a hurry. We really are in a hurry. We need to try things out. I had no idea. I've never been in a yurt before. Before I was in my own yurt, and I feel that we have to try these kind of adventures outside of our comfort zone. Just because we see that continuing to live in our suicide bubble, I call it the suicide bubble, is not an option. We cannot use more than one planet. It's impossible, and in the moment we do. So, for the sake of life in all its diversity, for the sake of the human species, even, and many other species, like we really need to change our ways dramatically and fast. And yeah, shelter from the six of our priorities. I find shelter was a plausible one to start with. So please post questions in the comments if you have questions. I try to answer them. And also, please feel free to subscribe. I hope to bring valuable content. And I think that's it. Trying to make a video every Tuesday from now on. So now I said it, now I have to continue with that. Everyone, have a good time. Take care of each other and yourself. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.